Hello, horror fans, and welcome to a special episode. Don't forget, our episode on The Howling will be moved to Saturday.
This past weekend, we had the opportunity to talk to Justin Dyke, the director of Anything for Jackson, as well as Keith Cooper, who was the writer for the film.
We were so excited about this that we wanted to release this right away.
We asked them how they got started, behind the scenes for the movie, and even what horror movies inspired them, and they did not disappoint on giving us a lot of information.
Yeah, they had a lot of cool behind the scenes that you can't find anywhere else.
You heard it here first.
The logline for the movie is a bereaved Satanist couple kidnap a pregnant woman so they can use an ancient spellbook to put their dead grandson's spirit into her unborn child, but end up summoning more than they bargained for. And yes, there are some spoilers in this interview.
It's pretty much full of spoilers.
So we recommend watching the movie before listening to this.
Actually, watch the movie, listen to our mini-sode about it, and then come back here for the interview.
We hope you enjoy, and make sure you follow them on Twitter to see what they make next. You can find Keith at Keith is a Jerk, and Justin at Justin G. Dyke, D-Y-C-K.
This is Justin Dyke.
My name's Keith Cooper.
Start off with just something simple. If you guys wanted to tell us how you met or how you two started working with each other.
Yeah, of course. Well, I guess it was about, 7 years ago now, Justin?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah. Oh my God, I just realized how much our abouts came out as Canadian there.
I just heard it too. I was like, oh wow, definitely Toronto.
It's once in a while you catch yourself and you're like, wow, we really do. I think it was, about 7 years ago now. We actually met, I got hired to write a movie about a monkey playing soccer. They said, can you please write a movie about a kid playing soccer with a monkey? And Justin is going to direct this. And of course we said, sure, because we needed to learn how to make movies. And the monkey bit me 11 times. And then we just kept making movies after that.
Oh, no way. It was a real monkey.
Yeah, it was a real monkey. And he was very, very dangerous. It's not as much fun as I thought it was going to be. I was extremely excited when I first heard that we were going to be working with a monkey. But I'm not sure they should be pets. I'll just say that.
Fair.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I guess we just kept making movies. We obviously Justin and I both, when we first met, we both love movies, and we had a whole list of horror movies. And I think Justin had met a producer who'd said they could get us some financing for our horror movie, so we were really excited. And then I think we ended up going with the monkey movie and a whole bunch of kids and family movies after that. The downside to doing those movies is if you do them well, they want more.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I was very happy that we got the work, but it did kind of slow us down a little from our original goal.
Yeah, so Keith and I both live in a small town just north of Toronto. It's kind of a commuter's town. And there's not a bustling film scene here, oddly enough. So we both had a mutual friend, and he's like, oh yeah, this guy's doing all these great things, and this guy's doing this. So he said, you two should meet. And so yeah, we just we found each other as sort of two of the only filmmaking people in town, and just started making stuff together, and that eventually led to the monkey movie Waterfall, as we call it.
Got it.
Because we see we looked at your IMDb's, and we're like, wow, there's a lot of Christmas on here.
Is that a lot? Yes. Is 30 a lot?
So what was your was the horror, was that always what you guys had wanted to do?
Yeah, that's what I guess, Keith, we were doing something before we looked at the horror as an option. It wasn't much. We were working on little small things, television pilots and stuff. I started as a cinematographer with this company, so we were just sort of looking for whatever avenues. And I think, did we go in together for that horror movie, Keith, or was that before we really determined that we were going to do this together?
Yeah, I actually don't remember. I can't remember if that was something that you'd come on with early. I know we'd had a whole bunch of ideas. Obviously we love movies. I've grown up as a horror kid. I've been watching them since I was 3. So I love horror, but I love good movies. It really doesn't, I don't care about the genre. So I think Justin and I shared that. And so we went in just with a whole bunch of pitches. And horror is just something that we've always both gravitated toward, and it seemed to be the ones that were getting a lot of traction. So
yeah, it's a logical step for a first film, because you don't need anything other than 5 friends in a forest.
Right.
You can go come up with some sort of horror film. So that, to me, it was more like, I need a first film, and no one's going to give me any money. So what can I do with the least amount of money? So I figured some sort of horror film. I don't even think I had a concept when I first went after the financing. But they said, yeah, we'll go look for some money, and then you guys can come up with some pitches. But instead of money, they came back with a monkey movie. So, it all goes back to that, apparently. So yeah, that's where it started, and then that led to more films, and it just sort of became this great day job where Keith and I were building, family entertainment. A broadcaster would request something. We want this kind of movie. Keith and I would deliver the product, and that would be that. So, there's certainly a level of creativity and fun involved with that, but none of it was really, an original indie film.
Mm-hmm.
So once we got, all those movies under our belt, we just kept pursuing, and really I don't think we had any, we weren't at the front of any lines with a bunch of Christmas movies. We were like everybody else, just pitching horror concepts and trying to find that one producer who's going to connect with something. And eventually we did.
Yeah, well, it's great you did, because we love this movie.
Yeah.
How did Anything for Jackson start? Whose idea was it, or was it collaborative between you two?
Started with a lie. It's we were in a pitch meeting for another movie. I think we had something about vampires, a movie that we'd both kind of come up with beforehand. And they said, wow, yeah, we like that, but I think they'd already had a vampire movie. And they said, I really wish you guys had something in the supernatural kind of world. And I was like, oh, of course we do. Yeah, we just didn't bring it. And so once that lie took place, then we got in the car and said, okay, well, we've got about an hour, because I said I would send it to them when we get home. So we just kind of started throwing ideas back and forth in the car. We talked about haunted house movies. And I think originally it started with, I like the idea of a haunted house movie that you didn't want to leave. If your grandson's in the haunted house, I know I wouldn't want to leave. I would want to hang out with my grandson, alive or dead. It's a little bit morbid, but at least you get to see them. And then I think we'd gone back about exorcism, and one of us came up with the idea of the reverse exorcism. So it really just stemmed from that.
That's funny. Wow. So you said you had about an hour. In that hour, what had you come up with? Obviously, you couldn't have like the full-fledged script, but
we had the reverse exorcism. I think originally it was going to be parents that had lost their son, and then lived in the house with his spirit and wanted to perform this reverse exorcism. But I know the opening scene was one that came from Keith very early on. It was during that car ride. I said, this is what it is. And Keith's like, oh, I know how it's got to open. We got to jump right in, because, it's a kidnapping movie, but it's not about the kidnapping. The kidnapping is just what they're doing in order to start the movie. So he came up with that opening scene. And then I think every decision from there was, okay, where would the story go? And we come up with a first idea, and then we have to go further, because everything had to be not the obvious. And I figured that, a first idea is always going to be the obvious one. So we come up with the first idea and then say, nope, that's great, but how do we push that further, or how do we flip that on its head? And that's where, grandparents came from, or, instead of going to a priest, they go to a Satanist to get help.
Right.
And we just kept flipping things outside of the obvious.
Yeah, you guys did a really good job. One of the things we always, I don't know, not laugh about, but we like is how she was like, Jesus Christ. And it's like, no.
We don't use that name here.
We don't use that name here. The dialogue is really clever and really great when it comes to that.
Yeah, and another question too. So as far as like making it grandparents over parents, was part of that like the intention to kind of have more of a comedy element? Because I think that definitely the age of the characters, the two main grandparents, obviously adds like a bit of a comedic effect. And there's obviously a lot of little comedy things mixed throughout.
Yeah, that wasn't intentional. I'm glad people are connecting with the comedy of it. I did find a lot of things funny, but it's sort of, for me, the comedy came from the absurd.
Right.
and the sort of realism of it all. If two grandparents had a couple years to learn Satanism and technology, they would probably bumble their way through it a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's really all about what would this really look like if you lived in a small town and this actually happened. Like, we're not creating a universe. This is just belongs right here in the real world. How would people react? What would they say? What would they do? And for me, that's what was so funny. And Keith always is able to add that level of realism, and there's like a natural comedy to his writing as well. So we didn't want to have a bunch of set up punchline. We just wanted it to be real and find the absurdity within realism. So that for me was where the comedy was coming from.
One of my favorite lines was you kind of touched on like you would do anything to see your grandson, even if it's morbid, like he's dead and you see his ghost. One of my favorite lines was, "No one has more time than a grieving family." That line always sticks with me. But one question I did have was, what are your favorite lines from the film, and were any lines improv that you could think of?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Not a ton of improv. Maybe I know Josh threw out some a couple lines here and there. Josh Curtis, who plays Ian, is insanely funny. You don't really get that from this movie with Josh, but he's a very funny guy. As far as the improv lines, my favorite improv we didn't even notice until we were editing, and it's really subtle. There's a part where he's thumbing through the book at the end of the movie, and he's so super intensely serious, and then he goes as he's flipping through the book, and it makes me laugh so hard.
Yeah, he's just humming like he was browsing a recipe book or something.
Right, exactly. As far as my favorite line, it's the delivery, right? I mean, obviously we had Sheila and Julian, who are just both so incredible. So yeah, I like the scene between Henry and Becker in the bed when he's kind of talking about everything. I'm not sure how spoilery we want to get here, so
you can spoil it. It's okay.
Okay, all right. So when he's talking to her there, and he says, "You'll never win a moral argument with a man who's made a deal with the devil," I think is probably my favorite delivery in the movie. Just Julian is just so incredible and just knocks it out of the park every time.
Yeah, I can think of one more ad-lib line. This was Josh again, and that was when they're at the library and start their meeting. Yolanda asks everyone, "Trust you had a good week?" And he's just over by the snack table, and again, just muttering to himself, and just says under his breath, "I had a horrible week." But yeah, really, there's you guys have listed a bunch of my favorite lines already, so there's just I don't know, there's tons of them with this cast. It was all of it was just so strong.
Yeah, there were so many good lines. So for working with Sheila McCarthy and Julian Richings, did you already have them in mind, or had they auditioned and you thought they were perfect?
They did not audition. We had them in mind quite early. Sheila we found first. I had watched an indie film she had done called Cardinals, where she was the lead. And I just instantly thought she would be a fantastic Audrey. So I sent that off to Keith. And then I think he started including that in his writing. I think we had a treatment, but it was becoming a script at that point. So I believe, Keith, you included Sheila in your script writing at that point, and you had already been targeting Julian, I believe, correct?
Yeah, it was kind of as Justin points out, we're a small. It was a pretty small movie. Our budget was only $250,000, so we actually figured, well, we got to at least aim local. So let's aim for the best local that we can find. And I didn't even know that Sheila or Julian really lived in Toronto. We just known friends of friends. And so I was like, okay, well, I know someone who knows Julian, so maybe we can, aim. So that was where we were aiming, and we both thought we would end up, kind of getting lesser versions, and we got really lucky. They both signed on, and it was just incredible. So, it was absolutely written with both those two in mind.
That's great when you can get somebody like that.
When you envision the person.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Because we had actually, Sheila is in Umbrella Academy, which
Yes.
we had both just watched, and she was so great in that. And we saw her in this. We were both watching. And I was like, didn't we just see her in what was it?
Right.
And she's so great.
Yeah. Oh, she's incredible. Yeah, and it's funny because she took the part to a whole other level. It was really weird. It was even different, even though I wrote it with the two in mind. Even just seeing the way that they wanted to approach it, and then Justin's version. It was incredible just to watch it all unfold.
Yeah, it's really great when you get an actor that surprises you and you have this idea for the character, and then they come in and just bring something, a whole new depth to it, and to be surprised on set is really nice. There's one scene in the film that it just deals with some sort of logistical issues, and I was always worried, like, oh, this is going to feel too long. We're setting everything up, and we're teaching everybody what this world is like, and I was worried that some of the lines would come across as exposition. But it's become one of my favorite films in the movie because of Sheila's performance. And she's just, so incredible and so real that it becomes really funny and relatable, as opposed to, the dreaded exposition scene that so many movies suffer from.
Yeah, I love the moment where she's reading like the note
at the very beginning,
when they just kidnap her, and she's reading from the note. That part always has stuck with me, just because you can tell like she's prepared for this, but she's still like
practiced.
Yeah, she's practiced this note 100 times probably.
Yeah, I think when she said, this is the best way for you to go missing, that might be one of my favorite deliveries in the film.
Oh yeah, that's great too. So Troy James is in this as I think he's quoted as like the suffocating ghost.
Yes.
So what was it like working with him? We've seen him in a couple other horror things, and he's just amazing.
We love him. In Channel Zero, he plays Pretzel Jack. Oh, and every time we see him in something, we instantly know that's not CGI.
Yeah.
We know who that is.
That's right. Yeah. I'll let Justin talk about it, but I just wanted to say, like, for me, it was almost like, when you get to watch Michael Jordan play or somebody of that level, like, and you're like, I'm just like, I couldn't believe what I got to see. He's just the nicest, most humble guy in the world too. So, but yeah, Justin, please talk more about that.
Yeah, the monitor was definitely the most crowded the day that Troy was out.
Yeah.
Everyone was gathering around to see what he could do. It was really unique working with someone like that because his abilities is not that of a, your standard person. You can't just say, you go from here to here. You say, well, how can you go from here to here? And we would, go through all of the, I don't know what you call all of the options, I guess, of the way he can move from point A to point B. And then I would just throw something out like, well, can you do it backwards? He's like, yeah, I can try. I'm like, well, can you do this? Yeah, I can try. And then he would just pull out these amazing things and just so pleasant and in a good mood all day long. And it was an absolute delight to work with him.
Brought his own contact lenses.
Yeah, because we couldn't afford them.
We couldn't afford them. And he was like, oh, hold on. I've got 2 pair in my car. Let me go see which one you like.
I love that. So from a production standpoint, were there any scenes that were specifically harder to shoot, whether it was like camera movements or acting or anything like that?
Yeah, the finale was quite difficult. We were quite ambitious with what we wanted to get away with. So the sort of the end bedroom scene, we did a lot in a little bit of time. So that was very difficult. We had what do we have? I guess 4, 5, 6 actors in one room for I think 11 pages. With some action and some deaths and things, and that was shot over a span of 2 days with a few other things peppered in there because those were the days the actors were available, and so that was a monster day.
That was intense.
What else was there that was I don't know. The whole thing was difficult and yet really, really smooth. We had days when all of the gear trucks were stuck in snowbanks because it had dumped like 1.5 feet of snow the night before. We had days when we were supposed to do exteriors, but the snow had melted, so we had to wait and readjust the schedule. But we had just an incredible team of
Yeah.
people working for this, low budget production, and all the actors were so cooperative and easy to work with that, really it turned out, and a lot of days felt impossible, but then at the end of the day, you're like, oh, that went great.
Yeah, I'll go. Yeah, I'll just add to that with, I don't think we mentioned our incredible line producers enough, Evan and Ali. These are both, office workers and trying to make sure everything's just running smoothly. And they're pushing giant trucks out of snowbanks and at 5 a.m. Like, it was just absolutely incredible. So everybody went above and beyond. And I think that's why it felt so smooth, is because everybody was working together on the same page, making the same movie. And I think that made all the difference. When everybody feels like they're making the same movie, I think is when, it's going to go right.
And you guys have mentioned a few times that this was low budget, but I don't think at any point it really felt low budget.
Definitely
So
not.
how much of the creatures and effects were practical as opposed to CG? Because most of them felt practical.
Yeah, they were pretty much all practical. Really, the only time we used CG was, cell phone screens. I think we had to paint one boom out. What else do we? The crows. We didn't have a crow wrangler, so we had to do some CG crows. And the transformation when the dead crow came back to life. That was a little bit of post effects, but really that was it. There was nothing major that became visual effects, and that was very much the goal, is because we both prefer practical effects in horror films, and that's what we set out to do. So, luckily we go ahead, Keith.
Oh no, I was just going to say, it's funny because when we first talked to the studio, they were really excited because my background is in visual effects. I worked as a CG animator for 15 years. And then, the next thing that Justin and I both say is, oh, but there's nothing in this. You're not getting any of that brought to the table. All of my skills are useless here. We got to pay somebody to do them, like Carly, to do them all, practically.
Yeah. So Carly Morris was our practical effects supervisor and mask and costume builder. Well, not wardrobe, but all the prosthetics. And she built all those monsters from some drawings and some source material that we found online, and we were thrilled every day we showed up and got to meet our new monsters.
Yeah, they all look great.
Yeah.
Where was it the the giant sheet ghost? Was that on stilts?
No, it was a real ghost. that was stilts. Yes,
I knew it.
Yeah, because we definitely try to figure it out when we're watching a movie, like how it's done. And I was like, that is definitely stilts. It has to be it's gigantic.
He was also 6'6". So
okay.
Oh wow,
it was
That's great. Yeah, I always try to, because I myself always like practical effects. CG, I think, is overused and can look tacky. So I'm always like, okay, obviously, you're not tearing this actor apart, and the demon isn't actually crawling out of them, so how did they do that? But it looks so good. All of the effects look great.
Oh, good. And that one was all 100% practical.
Yeah, that one we're really proud of. We came up with a very cool one. It's weird. We built, do we give that stuff away? Is that cool? Yeah. Is that what you want to know?
We would love to hear that for sure.
So Justin is insanely organized. It's why we work so well together. I want to shoot everything right after I write it, and Justin wants to plan everything out way over plan, so we meet in the middle. And so on this day, we knew we had to, have the demon come out of the back, but we also had to shoot all this other. So Justin organized the shots perfectly. So that we could shoot a bunch of stuff in the room. And then we had incredible set designers, art department, who then built a platform floor about 4 feet off the ground. Is that right, Justin? And then
about that. And we went to do one exterior shot, and they tore the set apart, jacked the walls up, put in another floor, and then had a 4-foot space underneath where the actors could go crawl through.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that's what it looks like when you try to pick it apart. You're like, there has to be a second floor or something. Yeah. So that's awesome. I love.
We had looked into building the whole set. We looked into building the whole set up on a stage, but we didn't have the money for that. So instead, we built one corner and scheduled it so that they could rip the set apart and do that as our very last shot of the whole production.
That's so smart. And I know the other practical effect, because we tell people to watch this movie, all of our friends,
Yeah.
because we want more people to talk about it with.
I've been giving out my Shudder login to so many people.
But the other one that people always tell us scares the crap out of them is the tooth, the flossing ghost.
Yeah.
The teeth. For me, it's the sound effects of the teeth bouncing.
Yeah.
That's what always does it for me.
Yeah, that was Carly built that. Well, she and Marianne, the actress, they worked together. I think they got together multiple days beforehand to try to make it work for us. And she built that whole prosthetic that fit inside Marianne's mouth, and it could not have been comfortable, but Marianne kept it in. And, she was trying to talk to us with hand signals. Are you still okay? Do you need water? And she's trying to nod for us. And so, yeah, they built that. And that was Henry and Audrey's bedroom was actually my bedroom in my house, because
Okay.
it got a lot of money. So I had spent the week prior to shooting ripping up my carpet and installing a laminate floor so this teeth would bounce off of it nice.
So we get that sound.
Yeah, I get that
I love
sound.
that.
So yeah, that was it was well worth it.
Yeah, and as far as like the actual different ghosts go and like the different demons, were there like any specific influences for those? Like as far as like in my brain, I feel like they're very obvious, like just nightmares that you guys had probably had. Or did you pull those from any other sort of different thing as far as the different visuals for that?
Wow, good for you. Yeah, no, the nightmare thing is actually where I went. I wanted to draw from dream analysis and try and base the ghosts on those. So the scene where with Henry, obviously with the Audrey and the teeth flossing ghost, when you lose your teeth in a dream, it's either that you have like money problems or things are spiraling out of control. And so that's obviously very much Henry's ghost, is he's very organized. So when that happens, it's when things really start to fall apart for Henry. The same thing about just the ghost, the size ghost is just being overwhelmed. Too many things. Obviously, we've all, had those kind of suffocating dreams and things like that, which is more along the lines for Becker, feeling trapped and things like that. So yeah, and it's worked out really well because everybody seems to lock on to a different ghost based on what your personal nightmares are. So
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
nice.
How did you guys come up with because there's the two people who kind of get possessed and then are basically forced to repeat their death over and over again. How did that come to be? Because the cop especially has always stuck with me a bit.
Yeah, the way I saw it was these once Sirgat, the very first demon, shows up, these demons and ghosts, it's not that they communicate and work together, but they all have the same goal, and that is to get another chance at coming back to this world, either as a person or to leave the underworld and come and occupy this world now. So they all have the same goal, which is let Henry and Audrey continue until the gates are opened. So anyone who's there to help, like Ian, they will allow him to help until he's no longer useful. But anyone who's going to stop their plan, like a police officer or a nosy neighbor, they have to get rid of them as soon as possible. So that's when the ghosts and the demons take over and do their thing.
So yeah, all those are so great. And then just the head in the snowblower.
Yeah, that was fun. That was Justin and I spent a few days trying to figure out what we could blend through a snowblower practically. And we tried oatmeal. That didn't work at all. It came out in a big hot glob. I can't remember. I think we'd asked Carly's advice finally after trying it a few times. She gave us great ideas. What did we end up with, Justin?
Yeah, it ended up being frozen tomato juice with some of Carly's special blood coloring and bananas. But frozen was the secret.
Yeah.
I guess that's why it's a snowblower. But anything warm in there just does not throw. The oatmeal just oozed out. We tried chunks of bread. We tried just water, everything. And it had to be frozen. And then it throws it a good, 25 feet.
That's
all
so
over my
funny.
shed.
Yeah.
That's so funny though, because I was like, I had guessed that was one of the things that was CG
Yeah.
was the what was blowing out.
No,
just,
that was.
yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, it was just we just locked the camera and shot it twice. So once with Yannick sticking his head into, we gave him a target that was not a churning blade. And for such an accomplished, talented actor who was coming out doing us a favor, he committed 100%. He went face first into the snow multiple times to get that
He
shot.
wanted to go into the actual snowblower, like not turned on, but he wanted it. And we're like, no.
And then yeah, we set up the snowblower and dumped in the banana tomato juice, and then we just stuck the two frames together.
Yeah, it looks so good.
Thank you.
I'm sure you've seen that many websites, articles have including the Nerdist, have referred to your movie as this year's Hereditary. I just want to know what you guys thought of that.
Obviously, that's incredible.
Yeah, I can think of worse films to be compared to.
It's much better than this year's Alf. That's a really old show. I just realized I should reference new things. No, that was incredible. I loved Hereditary. So I mean, that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess they both deal with loss and family, so there are some comparatives there. I think we took a less maybe serious approach to dealing with grief, but we are both dealing with the same subject matter, and so yeah, I think it's fantastic. I don't see a huge similarity between the two films or the style, but I sure am glad people who like Hereditary liked our film.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
I actually didn't agree fully with those articles, but I kind of it was the same subject matter as loss, but what I kind of thought it was like not a fully straightforward narrative. People see they're like, oh, it's kind of indie, so it's like Hereditary.
Right.
Right.
I think it was kind of people seeing,
Or the actor isn't 20. So
Yes.
then, yeah.
Yeah,
It's about seniors, so
20 Colette's like, what?
yeah.
yeah. So we've done a couple other interviews so far for our podcast, and we like to ask what your favorite scary movie is, or like
Fav-
top. It's hard to pick a number
Favorite
one for
lists
sure.
are tough.
Yeah.
They are, yeah. Yeah, it depends. Week to week, I probably change my answers. Carrie is certainly right up there for me, the original. I would say Martyrs. I really love that movie. The Final Girls is one that I absolutely love. More recently, I just watched The Dark and the Wicked. I really like that. That was great.
Oh, we loved that. We just
loved
saw
that.
that recently
Oh,
too.
good. Platform as well, I think I saw this year, which was great. And then I like The Hunt, because again, I kind of, I'm all over the map. I love most horror, I guess. This is really, I'm a bad person to ask this list.
we actually talked about The Dark and the Wicked and The Platform. We did a top horror movies of 2020. Obviously, Anything for Jackson is on there.
Yeah.
That was one of the first
But
ones.
those two are on there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me it was, I don't know, my some of the older ones I'd go with Silence of the Lambs. Some of the first ones I saw were Hitchcock, so Birds, Psycho, Misery I absolutely loved. And then what's some of the new ones? The one you guys just mentioned a bunch that I liked a lot this year. Host, of course.
Mhm.
Everyone's loving that, and I think it deserves all the attention it's getting.
Definitely.
The Orphanage is one of my all-time favorites.
For sure. Pan's Labyrinth, I guess. Would you call that one? I never know where to put Pan's Labyrinth. I think of it more as a fantasy kind of movie, but that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, that's in the same vein for sure.
Well, I was going to throw in Martyrs. Martyrs had a huge
Right.
effect on me, so that one's always got to make it into my list.
Absolutely.
Actually, one question I forgot to ask you earlier, because you had mentioned, obviously, there's a lot of supernatural horror to this movie. But one thing that always sticks out to the people we tell to watch this, and it sticks out to us, is the world's the best mom frame, where he takes her picture. That is always terrifying to me. How did you guys decide to do that? Like, how did you come up with that?
I think that was right in the script.
Yeah, I think so. I wanted to have a cool transition, and that's again, it's just kind of it's realistic. I think is what we were going for. That's what Audrey. Oh, I think I think in the original script we'd had there was actually Audrey was in a Skype call with Henry during that scene. But it kind of, I think you lost the feeling there. I think Justin felt, I should let Justin speak to that, but I feel like it was the right choice. And Audrey's asking for a picture in it. And I do like it better as Henry. So yeah, it was just a really cool way to transition into the horribleness that's about to happen right after.
Yeah, that was brilliant because it's him taking her picture, and it's kind of like, okay, that happens at a doctor.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right.
But then it just cuts to the frame photo, and it's just like, oh, that's so scary. That's so creepy.
No Canadian doctors. That's how they do it.
So the ending is a bit open. It's not, cut and dry. This is what happens. This is, final. But if you can answer, is there any chance for a sequel, or if you guys have had thoughts about it?
We've tossed around the idea. I don't know that would be my first choice. If somebody really wanted to, and we had a cool idea for it, I'd be open. But literally ideas are the one thing that we're not out of. We have a back catalog of, I couldn't even tell you how many ideas and movies and scripts. So I'd certainly like to move on for a while, and then before we think about going with a sequel. That's just my thinking. Justin, how about you?
Yeah, I'm certainly glad people are asking about it. That's
right.
That's quite the compliment if people want more from this world. But yeah, it's not something I'm pursuing because, as Keith said, we have a lot of other ideas that we were trying to get off the ground as we were selling anything for Jackson. So we're excited to dive in and try something a little bit different. But that being said, it's it's a fun world to play in. I think it would probably be based on maybe some of the story elements, but not necessarily bringing the same characters back. Obviously we'd be limited to what characters we could bring back, but
Right.
maybe we retell it, but it's from the ghost's perspective and it becomes their story. I don't know.
I like that. I'm into it.
So yeah, it's a world to play, I guess, kind of like, Insidious builds this world that you can go dive back into. I think anything for Jackson, we could do it, but we'd have to leave the characters behind and just play in the same sandbox, as it were.
That's actually a really cool answer to hear, though, especially that you have a big back catalog.
Yeah.
We're definitely excited to see more.
Yeah, so do you guys have anything coming up or in the works as far as horror stuff goes?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, just definitely a lot in the works, a lot of ideas, and I think Keith and I have a Zoom or a phone call every. I guess we usually touch base every day, but every couple of days, and we hammer out some ideas, and Keith can tell you what he's doing with those ideas.
Yeah, no, they're just, I've got some written, some are different stages. We're extremely grateful that people are connecting with Anything for Jackson, because it's actually opened up a lot of doors for us. So we've been able to have a lot of really great meetings with studios that we really couldn't meet with before, and they seem interested in our new ideas too. So that's sort of where we're at with those.
Awesome. That's super exciting.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be keeping an eye out.
Awesome.
Right.
I guess one thing I would, like to ask any director or writer or anything, people working on big movies is there anything you think people miss or anything you want to say about your movie?
Nothing for me. It's actually been so exciting to watch people interpret it in different ways.
Yeah.
Even people who don't like it, I find it very fascinating. Some of the reasons or something they see or don't see. I'm like, oh, that's so strange because that was definitely in there for me.
Right.
So it's really interesting to watch people interpret it in different ways. But there's a lot of people who are getting it the exact same way I saw it, and they see the ending as like, their theories of how it ended. They are exactly what I planned. But what I shot wasn't even necessarily the same way Keith saw it, right? Like we did leave some questions unanswered on purpose so that you could, project your own meaning onto it. And that's, I don't know, I always love that. Some of my favorite movies do that. And so that was sort of our intention from the get-go. So I don't want to correct anybody because whatever they saw is correct for them.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I would think the only thing that I'm surprised hasn't come up. It's come up two things. One that has come up a little bit was we kind of went with a tone of entitlement and privilege. That was there with Henry and Audrey to just be like, taking on their privilege to be able to just take this poor woman's baby.
Yeah.
It's totally fine. So I'm glad that some people have picked up on that. It wasn't, we didn't want to also, I like, people having themes or undertones or things, but I also despise when it's on the nose.
Mm-hmm.
So I am glad that people are getting that. The thing that surprised me is nobody has found the hidden ghosts in the movie.
I saw an article about that and I was going to ask. I wasn't sure if that was a real thing.
It is. I know I don't know if I'd written them in or if it was something that Justin and I had just gone back and forth or Justin wanted to have in there. But yeah, we definitely have a few in there. It's I think what, Justin, 3, 4?
Yeah, there's definitely 2 that were not written.
Right.
There's one that like was written in there, but we just shot it much more subtly and a lot of people missed it. But I assume most people are finding that one. That's just the giggling ghost.
Right.
We have not seen that.
Wait,
You haven't found the giggling ghost?
No, I don't think so.
I didn't even know there were hidden ghosts.
Oh, and then there's no new ghosts, but the ghosts that exist are they don't go away. They've been around for a while. So
okay, interesting.
I guess I need to watch it again.
Yeah.
I guess so. Everyone's got to
That's all
go
we
to Shudder
did.
and watch it again.
Well, yeah, now I definitely we just watched it last night and I'm like, wait a minute, what? Hidden ghosts.
Thinking back.
Well, I guess I'm going to be watching it again very soon.
One of the most subtle that I'll spill a little bit is you just see the shadow of feet under a doorway, but it's not in a close up. We're not holding anybody's hand.
Okay.
But if you see it, there's a ghost there.
Dang, we definitely have to go back.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny you mentioned The Dark and the Wicked is because that's a movie where we had paused it a few times trying to go frame by frame because
find that little monster.
Find that monster because that I like when movies they're not just like, here's everything, here's the creature. It's kind of like you're finding the creature yourself because he's only in it for like a second.
Right.
Yeah. No, there's one that's in frame for probably a full 45 seconds that I haven't seen anybody tweet about or have been able to find.
Yeah.
Now you guys are just blowing my mind here. I'm like, how do I always try to pride myself on noticing things like that, but no.
Yeah,
well,
take
a look and I'll tell you in private afterwards if you can or can't find it.
Sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for talking to us, guys. This was really fun. This was really exciting for us since we're huge fans of the movie.
Oh, thank you so much. That's it's exciting to meet huge fans of the movie, so it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, we were talking about like, if we could talk to somebody, who would we want to talk to? And I was like, well, they have Twitters. I was like, should I just try shooting them a message? And we're like, okay.
Yeah, worked out.
And I was very surprised to hear from both of you.
This is great.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and we're just we want as many people to see this movie as possible. So we're monitoring it carefully and trying to answer anyone who reaches out. So
yeah, we'll definitely keep telling people to watch it. But is there any other, obviously, than this movie? Is there anything else you guys want to plug or try promote?
Not yet. Yeah, but I'd love it if people followed us on I'm on Twitter and Instagram. Just my name, Justin G. Dyke. And follow me there and I'll tell you as soon as official news comes out in terms of what projects are next.
Yeah, Twitter's probably the best for me. Yeah, I'm just Keith is a jerk on Twitter. So That's easy.
I actually laughed when I saw the handle. All right. Well, thanks so much, you guys.
Yeah, and stay safe out there. I know you said that you guys are in a serious lockdown. Things are still kind of closed by us, but
Pretty much closed.
we're in Detroit, so
Yeah,
okay.
no, it's a good excuse for us to be working, so it forces me to sit down and write.
Well,
Yeah.
that's good.
right.
Yeah, we just went into the next version of lockdown, I guess. So it's just like I guess this is kind of the tail end of it. They did a lockdown over Christmas, and so another week or two of the stores and stuff being closed. So
Yeah, I think we're looking into probably being locked down again because they kept things open over Christmas here,
right.
unfortunately. So
yeah.
So
What part of Detroit are you guys in?
we're just north of Detroit. We're in Hazel Park, which is just a small city, like 20 minutes north. So it's one of the bad areas as far as that goes, unfortunately.
I shot a music video in Detroit many years ago, and I loved it.
Oh yeah, it's great
In
here.
Detroit. Yeah.
well, where'd you shoot it at?
All downtown. It was for Obi Trice, and we just we went through and we were like riding the subway and finding abandoned buildings to shoot inside, and we did the Fist in the center of town there, and we shot at Tiger Stadium, and yeah, it was awesome. Everyone was just so nice and friendly and willing to help us, and I thought it was fantastic.
Mm-hmm, yeah, anytime somebody wants a music video downtown, they're like, we got to shoot at the Fist, and I want the Spirit of Detroit. Everybody always wants the Spirit of Detroit.
Packer plant.
Packer plant.
That's like one of the big abandoned buildings down there.
Yeah. We may have been inside there. We ran into some people taking their wedding photos at the same time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Cool.
So yeah, thanks again, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And have a good rest of your day.
All right, you too.
Stay safe.
Good luck finding the ghosts.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We hope you guys enjoyed the discussion that we had with those guys.
Probably some of the coolest movie guys we've ever talked to.
We would love if you would comment on our Twitter or Instagram and let us know if there's anyone else that you'd like for us to interview. We're definitely trying to do more of these.
And make sure you check out Anything for Jackson. And don't forget, we also did a mini-sode on it.
And it's also in our top 10 movies of 2020. So this was definitely a favorite for us.
And once again, don't forget, the Howling episode is coming out Saturday.